Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss the 2025 version of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Starring Madeline Klein, Chase Sui Wanders, Jonah Howard King, Tyreek Withers, Sarah Pigeon, Billy Campbell, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar for a brief scene, and Jennifer Love Hewitt, directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson. Now, before I get into this review, I I am gonna spoil this thing. If you haven't seen the movie yet, this thing's gonna get spoiled rotten to death. And I, unfortunately, have seen this movie twice. And why did I say unfortunately, as I'm showing my hand a little too early? Let's get into this review, as you'll see why unfortunately. We start with Ava Brooks, played by Chase Sui Wanders, returning home to Southport, which is the same town as in the first movie, as she tries on some dresses and goes to an engagement party of her two best friends, Danica Richards, played by Madeline Klein, who's popular in the Netflix show Stranger Things, but I know her from a movie I reviewed called before in the Knives Out sequel, Glass Onion. And Teddy Spencer, played by Tyreek Withers, whom I really don't know, as I'll continue to see him again in a Jordan Peele produced horror film about football called Him, as they celebrate at his parents' house. Grant, played by Billy Campbell, who from the Jennifer Lopez movie from 2002 called Enough, and Jill, toasting to Teddy and Danica to their future, and Ava's best ex-boyfriend, Milo Griffin, played by Jonah Howard King, who's well known for the live-action remake of The Little Mermaid, which I didn't last 20 minutes in that thing. And he happens to be there while Teddy and Danica believe Ava and Milo should get back together, as it's the 4th of July of the year before the movie mostly takes place, and smokes a cigarette filled with weed, called Cigaweed, as I call it, to quote Rush Hour 1. And they invite Stevie Ward, played by Sarah Pigeon, to watch fireworks with them like the good old days. As she went to rehab and watch the fireworks on the side of the road with them, while Teddy is stoned out of his fucking mind and almost gets someone driving on the highway killed, until he does, as the driver does end up on the river. And this setup makes me hate these fucking characters, as I did previous times, as it's not as worse as always know what you did last summer, as Teddy was stupid enough to have the driver hang on to his shirt as he circles around it, which was so stupid in so many levels. They abandon the crime scene as they drive by the cops, ambulances, and fire trucks, and Teddy makes a promise to everyone to never speak of this, while Grant will take care of the situation as an accident, despite it was manslaughter. And Ava walks away, and they part ways for a year, as we move on to 1 year later, with Ava having a lesbian sex in the airplane or the bathroom, which I couldn't tell which one was which, with a female named Tyler, who hosts a true crimes podcast, and Milo picks them up and takes Tyler to Southport, which is where she's going, as well as Milo, and they drop her off screen, and they get to Danica's bridal shower, and she opens the gifts from Stevie, who happens to be there, and Milo, as she gets a note that says, "I know what you did last summer," as her future husband Wyatt comes in, and Danica believes Teddy wrote that for her, as that made me think they broke up because he ditched her a month before the wedding day. And this movie falls so flat in so many levels. Even Milo and Stevie go to Teddy to talk with him on a boat why he hasn't, as he didn't, about why he wrote it, as he didn't send it, and the acting in this is horrible. Meanwhile, at night, Danica looks outside because she heard something as the wedding jitters, as she has them, and Wyatt says she has nothing to worry about, but that won't last long, as Danica takes a bath with headphones on while Wyatt gets killed by the fishermen. Danica doesn't hear a fucking thing because she wears her headphones in the bathtub, and didn't hear a motherfucking thing, which was painfully stupid, as she walks downstairs and sees Wyatt dead with the fish hook on his head. And this is so far painfully a stupid movie, and at the same time just fucking laughable, as there were times I was laughing my ass off because it's so stupid. Danica gets to the hospital with Ava, Milo, and Stevie as she cries, and Teddy and Grant come in to help, and Chief Roberts to look to keep an eye on Danica, and Ava is with her as she apologizes to Danica about not talking to her because of the fucked up situation they went through the year before, and confesses they miss each other. And this is just corny as they talk about who could have done this to them. And they find Tyler's podcast and they go to her as they learn something that happened back in 1997 as Ava goes to Tyler to an abandoned building and tells her some information about what happened in the original movie, while with Tyler trying to get Julie James, returned by Jennifer Love Hewitt, for an interview as she teaches at a university. And suddenly Ava and Tyler gets attacked by the fishermen, and they try to find a way until Tyler gets recognized, gets killed looking like someone, and I get the feeling it's one of the two people from the original movie. And Stevie happens to be there, and the deaths feel familiar, as this is a pale imitation of the original movie, with the same goddamn plot. Chief Roberts tells the protagonist to come to the town hall meeting at the community center, and we move on to Ava meeting Julie at the university and asks her for help, and Julie asks what did she do last summer, and she explains it off screen, and Julie gives Ava a way to defeat the fishermen without going to Southport. And it was nice to see Jennifer Love Hewitt working again. And we move on to the town hall meeting with Grant as Ava and Milo talk about what happened in the last couple of days. And Ray Bronson, returned by Freddie Prinze Jr., happens to be there. And it's also nice to see Freddie Prinze Jr. working again, as he worked in mostly voiceover gigs, but it was good to see him again. Stevie goes to Ray about what happened to him back in the day, as he was married to Julie, and they bring up Sam Cooper. And what does this have to do with the plot? As they look for the car that had totaled last year, and the name of the person, as Danica and Teddy go to the cemetery and asks a man who works there to check on the cameras until he gets killed while Teddy checks up on him. And Danica gets attacked by the fishermen. And the movie is violent but not too graphic, and then the fisherman continuously attacks Danica until Teddy comes in and beats up on the fisherman until he runs away and talks shit about how he'll fuck him up and run like a little bitch. And this scene was dreadful, and the cinematography looked very bad. Julie gets a surprise visit from Ray, and did something happen to them that made them hate each other so fucking badly? And the acting in that scene between Julie and Ray was terrible. As the acting was terrible, as we move on to Danica getting some rest while she makes Ava and Milo sleep together while Teddy sleeps with Danica, because nobody sleeps alone in the house. Excuse me. And while watching Danica, I get the impression she must have been mistaken for Sydney Sweeney a lot, because they look alike, and I was getting vibes of her while watching this movie. While Ava and Milo have sexual intercourse, and at one point, she asks him to choke her, and he needs her a minute as he freaks out about choking her to death because of what they're going through, and goes in his car to talk to himself about doing what she wants until he gets killed by choking with the fisherman, driving away in his car. And I'm believing the fisherman at this point is Stevie, because at one point she says she has to go back to the bar, which was pretty obvious. Ava and Danica go to Pastor Judah while Danica looks for clues in Pastor Judah's office. And when he comes in, she hides in the closet, and I thought she was going to get caught, as he gets a book for Ava, and Danica off screen gets out and there, and they go to Chief Roberts as they find out Pastor Judah was involved in the murders, and he believes they're being hysterical and leaves them in the interrogation room to sleep for the night by Grant's orders, while Teddy goes to the sauna, seeing a sign that says "I know," while Stevie is worried about them while at work at Ray's bar. And how did Ray have a bar over the years is beyond me, as we see an overlong fight between Teddy and the fisherman, as Teddy gets stabbed eventually along with Grant, and goes back and good fucking riddance, because for Grant, as he was an asshole to begin with, as this is just a very bad scene in general. Danica dreams of Helen Shivers, returned briefly by Sarah Michelle Gellar, as she torments her about how it's her fault and how she got her fiance killed. And I knew this was a dream sequence, which pissed me off at this point. This movie pisses me off as Danica wakes up and she with Ava leave the station and see not only Teddy and Grant are dead, but so is Milo before they go on Ray's boat to the sea. And the cops go to the church and see Pastor Judah dead. And at this point, I'm very much checked out of the movie because it's so fucking bad. And when they get to the middle of the sea, the anchor drops, and Danica and Ava find out what the cops find out, which is Stevie is the daughter of Sam Cooper, is aka the guy that died earlier in the film, and is trying to kill Ava and Danica. And this reveal was so goddamn obvious, and it's not funny. And I'm getting very pissed off at this movie. And she monologues about how Sam was her brother, and she goes to them to kill Stevie. Or Ray does, anyways. While she killed Danica before she got killed by Ray. And something isn't right, as this isn't a long movie at an hour and 51 minutes. Or this is, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a long movie. And part of this needed to be cut out, as this is not over yet. And I almost walked out of the theater 15 minutes. But there's 15 more minutes to go. And I sat next to someone in the first viewing that left the theater and never returned after this moment. Ava tells Julie she's safe and is coming back with Ray in this bar, and Julie figures out why Ray is involved as he reveals his back, and he was cut earlier in the film. And that was a reveal that was bullshit, because he was one of the originals. And why the fuck was he involved in the first place? Was because he was friends with Sam and Stevie, and he attacks Ava Edge as she fights back, and Julie arrives at the boat on time as Ava was stabbed in the back, and she says the cops are on the way, and Ray monologues about how Stevie's friends betrayed her, and says Julie was involved, and she says, "What are you waiting for?" And Ray is about to kill Julie, but Ava kills Ray and says, "Fuck the 4th of July," as she's hospitalized, and Danica was found also as she gets hospitalized as well as she gets alive. As she's alive, and Ava and Danica get out of the hospital, and Danica gets called a mermaid as they get something to eat and learn Stevie is alive, and they think they should kill her. And credits roll to a mid-credits scene with Carla Wilson, returned by Brandy Norwood, watching the TV with her husband as they see Julie has been attacked, and Julie goes to Carla to help her kill the motherfucker coming after her. And this climax was the worst, as this mid-credits scene was the worst. And how worse is this movie compared to the other movies / show? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 1.3 out of 10. I hate the characters, and the choices being made by this movie was stupid as shit, as it falls flat, and the acting in this is horrible, as this is painfully a stupid movie, and at the same time just fucking laughable, as there were times I was laughing my ass off because it's so fucking stupid. This is corny, and the deaths feel familiar, as this is a pale imitation of the original movie with the same goddamn plot. But I'll give the movie this: it was nice to see Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr., and Sarah Michelle Gellar work in these days. While this movie was violent but not too graphic, as these scenes were dreadful, and the cinematography looked very bad. The twist with Stevie was obvious, but involving Ray into this is such a bullshit way to end this movie, as he was one of the originals, as this went from bad to worse. And why the fuck would they do that? Because to begin with, as this is a strong non-recommendation for this movie, as this movie pissed me off, as Stevie's death was obvious, but Ray is the one that pissed me off the most, as I was checked out before the climax began. And if I were to give a movie 0 stars, I wish I could give this 0 stars, but as this and I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer were the very worst, and I still know what you did last summer with that film, and I don't see any of them, as they were all bad movies, and this setup with Julie and Carla at the end made me think, why the fuck would you set this up as this is the worst, that is the worst for the series. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for the I Know What You Did Last Summer retrospective series. And if we ever get another one, what are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?